Well, ahoy there, and welcome to Pearls Aboard Oyster. Thanks again for joining us. I know that it's been a while since I've been able to get a chance to talk to you personally. So, today I just want to let you know where we are, what our status is, and tell you a little bit about the story about this great loop summer adventure. It's been a blast, it truly has. But I want to first let you know I'm coming to you from Port Jefferson, Long Island, which means that Jeff and I have crossed our wake, which in loopers terms means that you've come back, looped around, and have crossed where you had begun. We had stayed here in Port Jefferson on our way out towards the Triangle Loop, towards New York City Harbor and up the Hudson and the Erie Canal and beyond. And now we are here once again. It's a blustery, sunny, beautiful day. Unfortunately, though, we can't go very far. We've been here since last Thursday, and it's been so windy and rainy. And Jeff had actually spoken to some Coast Guard gentlemen today who said, you really want to stick to this port because it's pretty bad out there. Yesterday, we were actually a little stir crazy and ended up going onto land, renting a car, and traveling around Long Island just to get to know it. It was a dark and kind of rainy day, but it was well worth being able to do that. So that's kind of the fun of this whole trip, is that you get to experience things that you hadn't quite planned on and that turned out to be just gems. So talking about our story, as you know, Jeff and I are a little bit adventure addicted, you could say. We love to do things, get out there, get out into the world and travel. Well, this boating adventure has been an amazing experience. And, when we set out to do something like this, we're naturally very concerned. Is it going to work? It was the same thing with Costa Rica and Ecuador. Can we do this? Is it going to work? But we tend to kind of buy into it and own it. And we envision ourselves doing it, and then we can see ourselves successfully doing so. And we anticipate any challenges that we might have, figure out how we're going to deal with them beforehand for as much as we can. And then we get into the planning. And that's what we did with the boat. We bought Oyster last August. I can't believe it's only been a year. But it's been tremendous in the sense that we've learned so much about ourselves and about each other and about working as a team. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about, because we certainly have encountered many pearls along this adventure. As I just said, traveling is so important. It opens your mind, it sparks you, it sparks your life. It lets you see things that you never expected to be able to experience. And this also required, with the boating aspect to it, a whole set of new skills needed to be developed. Both Jeff and I had to learn to deal with a boat. Jeff's skills are so proficient now in terms of docking and maneuvering the boat and navigating and maintaining the systems of the boat. If it weren't for him, obviously I would not be doing this, but I know that I can rely on him for all of those wonderful things. He had to get us through everything, and it's a really secure feeling. I have developed skills as well, just as more of a supporting role. I am the first mate, not so much the admiral. He's the captain, I'm the first mate, and I have learned that supporting role in terms of dealing with the rope lines and coming into a dock. I've learned how to put out the fenders and get ourselves prepared and put the lines out onto the dock and help to tie us up. What we have learned is to communicate as clearly as we can to each other and to work as a team. We've learned to listen to each other. We are coming at all of this with different skills, with different approaches, different ways to organize ourselves. And for a lot of loopers, that's the biggest thing. They say that first month can be really tough while you try to get into the groove with each other, because you have to rely on each other. And it's essential that you learn to listen, that you learn to respect each other's um, positive approaches to things and talents, and know that you can do it together. And that Jeff and I have definitely gone through that learning curve just as anyone else has. It isn't always easy because of our differences, but we realized that those differences are actually what we respect in each other. So the whole boating thing has just been an incredible learning curve in terms of developing skills and also working as a team. Another pearl of this adventure, of course, is just managing this floating RV. We have docked very often, and of course, when you're at docks and marinas, it's really nice because you can get your electrical hook up to electrical tie-ups, which when we're anchored out, thankfully we have a new generator, so that's gotten us through. So water and electricity, obviously power, and fuel are the three things that we depend on, we have to have as we go along. So the lucky part is that even through all of the locks on the Erie Canal and the Rideau Canal and even the Chambly Canal, we have tied up to walls, some of which have had electricity and power. And if they don't, we have our generator that we can rely on as well, and an inverter for power that doesn't require the generator immediately. Water, we've been able to just fill up at different spots along the way. Typically, docks will have water that you can just, pump into your tanks. We've got really big tanks on the boat, so we've been able to take nice, hot, long showers. That's been excellent. And of course, there's fuel, and fuel prices have been expensive, but at the same time, we've done pretty well along the way because we're only going 7 knots. So it's been a little bit easier on us. The biggest thing, of course, as I said, is just all of the experiences. We've essentially stayed, for the most part, in New York in terms of the states, and Vermont, of course, when we were on Lake Champlain, where New York and Vermont straddle the Lake Champlain, and the canal straddles both of those states. And we've gotten to know Canada. All of those have just given us a richness that an appreciation of these states and these places that we had never known. And we got a chance to, of course, go up the Rideau Canal and into Ottawa, and visiting friends in both Ottawa and the Rideau Canal and Montreal. So the last thing that I want to talk to you about is the people. all along the way, we have met the most wonderful people, many of whom are also loopers. They were also traveling pretty much the same layout, the loop and route as we were. But you do it at different times, of course. You might stay behind, you meet people, you might stay behind, they might go ahead, you might catch up to each other. Um, and there were several couples that we were able to do that with, going through locks together. And that's another thing that Jeff and I really learned how to do pretty well, is going through the locks. I mean, that's a whole different set of little skills. It's not nearly as hard as we thought. They were pretty intimidating at first. But we were able, after a couple of hundred, to get them down pretty well, get that skill down pretty pat. So, all in all, the pearls of this adventure have really been more about the people, the places, developing our own personal skills, and really working as a team. So, as we move towards Rhode Island and Connecticut, where we're going next to explore a little bit more of Rhode Island, Narragansett Bay, where that's my home state, where I come from, that I grew up on, but traveling the Bay and Newport, Rhode Island, and Jamestown and Portsmouth and all of those places by boat is going to be really fun. And then we'll have to sadly put Oyster away in Connecticut. And we're going back to the same place, up the Connecticut River. We're going to store Oyster. And then next year, we're hoping to come back out here, do it all again, but go up towards Lake Ontario and Canada and do what's called the Trent Severn Canal into what's known as Georgian Bay and Lake Michigan, and go through Chicago and down the Mississippi and all the way down to Florida again. And hopefully Oyster then by next year will have a home in Florida for the winter. So in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry that this was a little long-winded, but I did want to share with you what this whole thing has really been about. Not only the where of where we've been, but the what and the whys and the hows. So you guys have a wonderful rest of the fall. It's a gorgeous day here. We're again looking towards some not so great weather for the weekend, and by next week hopefully we'll be away from Port Jefferson and moving on. You take care. Thanks for joining us.